wind bit like broken glass. It howled through the naked trees, rattling branches like bones, tearing across the frozen land with winter's cruelty. Snow spun in the air, sharp and relentless, layering the world in silence and white. In the middle of it all, stumbling down an icy country road lined with distant, dark houses, she walked, barefoot, shivering, barely standing. She looked human enough, but her skin was a soft, dusky blue. Not frostbite, not paint, just blue. Her hair flowed silver like moonlight, tangled with sleet. Thin fabric clung to her figure. A woven dress, ceremonial in design, wholly unfit for the bitter cold. Her fingers were long and trembling, her lips tinged purple, and her wide, dark eyes searched each home with pleading hope. She had knocked 17 times. 17 doors. 17 faces filled with suspicion, fear, or disgust. One slammed the door before she could speak. Another called her a junkie. Several didn't open at all, just peeked through curtains and turned off porch lights. The last one threatened her with a rifle from behind a cracked screen. And now she was at the 18th. A small cabin stood at the edge of the woods. Warm yellow light spilled through the windows, golden and inviting. Smoke curled from the chimney. It smelled like pine and meat. Her knees nearly gave out just seeing it. She raised a trembling hand and knocked, soft at first, then harder. Footsteps thudded inside. The door opened. A man stood there. Tall, late 30s maybe, bearded, broad-shouldered, wrapped in a flannel shirt and sweatpants. His hair was a tousled mess, and he looked like someone who didn't often expect visitors. For a moment, he just blinked at her. She wobbled, took a step forward, and collapsed onto her knees in the snow, arms crossed tightly over her chest. Her voice was barely more than breath. "Please." He didn't ask where she came from, didn't flinch at her skin, didn't even speak. He stepped forward, bent down, and without a word, lifted her in his arms. Inside, warmth rushed over her like a wave. The cabin smelled of stew and cedar. A fire crackled in the hearth. Cozy furniture surrounded the room. Leather, aged wood, soft pillows and books. The man carried her to the couch and set her down gently. He draped a thick woolen blanket around her shoulders, then moved with quiet efficiency, stoking the fire, setting a kettle to boil, then placing a steaming bowl of stew in front of her with a spoon and a hopeful look. She hesitated. He knelt, held out the spoon. "Eat," he said softly. She stared at him, blinking slowly. Her fingers twitched. Then she took the spoon. She didn't speak for hours. She ate in small, desperate bites. Her hands still shook. But as the warmth settled into her bones and color touched her lips again, she looked up at him. "I'm not from here," she said at last, her voice musical but strained. "Not your country, not your world." The man, sitting in a chair across from her with a mug in hand, nodded once. "I figured. You believe me? You look like you fell out of a stargate and face-planted into a snowbank. I don't know what that makes you, but you're cold, and you needed help." Her eyes welled. She looked away quickly. "My name is Eshari," she whispered. "I came through a breach. An accident. The portal collapsed." He nodded again. "Name's Caleb." She blinked at him. "You're very calm. Had a weird life. Maybe this is the payoff." Over the next few days, Eshari recovered. She was delicate in appearance, but not fragile in spirit. She examined every object in Caleb's cabin with awe, his coffee machine, his radio, even the toaster. Her people had advanced technology, but theirs was sleek and digital. Everything here was mechanical, warm, humming with a different kind of life. "I didn't think humans would be so kind," she said on the third night, wrapped in a borrowed hoodie, her feet tucked under her on the couch. "Most aren't," Caleb admitted, "but some try." Ishari tilted her head. 17 didn't, he sighed. "Fear makes people blind. You look different. That's all it takes." She looked down at her hands. "I used to be an ambassador." "Used to be?" "I was sent to another system, an alliance mission. Our ship. There was sabotage. I fled into an escape pod and the breach misfired. Dropped me here." Caleb frowned. "So, you're stuck until I can signal my people." "Or until they find me." She looked out the frosted window. "But this planet is vast, and the universe larger." Weeks passed. Winter raged, but inside the cabin, life softened. Caleb found clothes that fit her, taught her how to make pancakes, showed her old science fiction movies, and laughed at her dry commentary. She was learning English rapidly, absorbing everything. He found her one afternoon dissecting the toaster, entirely reassembled and now capable of toasting 6 slices at once, with a solar panel she'd cobbled together from flashlights and a broken lamp. "You're either a genius," Caleb muttered, "or my toaster's never going to forgive me." Shari smiled faintly. Both could be true. Sometimes she grew quiet. When she looked out at the snow, he saw sadness deep in her gaze, a kind of cosmic homesickness. One night, as they sat by the fire, she asked, "Why did you help me?" "Caleb," he shrugged, "seemed like the human thing to do." "No," she whispered, "most humans didn't. But you were the 18th door." He looked at her for a long moment. "Maybe I was just waiting for someone to knock." By early spring, the snow began to thaw. Crocuses sprouted, birds returned, and one morning a strange frequency crackled through Caleb's shortwave radio. Ishari froze. "That's my language," she said, breathless. "That's my people." They triangulated the signal. An orbital probe was circling, broadcasting a beacon. She knew it wouldn't last long. "If I get to high ground," she said, pacing the cabin, "I can boost a signal using your tools, send a location ping, they'll come for me." Caleb said nothing. She turned. "This is good, Caleb. I can go home." But his expression didn't change, and hers faltered. "Ice." "I'll go back," she murmured. They hiked up the ridge at dawn. Frost still clung to the ground, but the sky was clear. Ishari rigged a transmitter out of salvaged radio parts and the remains of Caleb's solar panel array. When the signal went out, it blazed like fire, burning across the stars. She stood there a long while after. "I don't know how to say goodbye in your language," she said softly. "You could just say it in yours," Caleb replied. Ishari stepped close, lifted her hand, and gently pressed 2 fingers to his chest, a gesture that made the cold seem to vanish. "Talina, it means you made a place for me." Then she looked up. A streak of light flashed across the sky, growing larger. The ship that landed was sleek and silent, like a needle of silver descending from the heavens. It hovered above the ridge, a ramp extending. Ishari turned back one last time. "Caleb," he raised a hand. "Go! Be amazing!" She stared at him for a heartbeat, then ran back, threw her arms around him, and whispered something in his ear that made him still. Then, without another word, she turned and disappeared up the ramp. The ship lifted into the sky and was gone. The cabin felt empty after that. "Why, lonely." Caleb went back to his books, his fire, his coffee. But 3 months later, he heard a knock. Not from the door, from the radio. A signal, a hum, not human. He listened. It repeated, once, then stopped. Caleb, Tolina. And he smiled.